I saw a bunch of tweets when this movie came out in theaters. A lot. I saw little to few bad things about this movie. No joke. Swear to God. People praised this movie, saying this is a faithful adaptation to the video games, saying this felt like a Resident Evil movie. And fuck the Paul W.S. Anderson movies, they didn't feel like Resident Evil games at all. And as much as they're kind of right about Paul W.S. Anderson's movies not being like the games at all, this movie, despite a few things that probably feel like the game, this movie is disrespectful to its source material in every fucking way possible. Now, am I the biggest Resident Evil fan? No. You're talking to a guy that got his start with the Resident Evil franchise through the movies. Like, I watched the movies first, and then I started playing the games when I was young. Now, what was the first Resident Evil game I played? Well, shockingly enough, it was Code Veronica on my Dreamcast. I wasn't good at it. I didn't get through it that much because I hated tank controls, basically. But it was a pretty nice game for how fun it was. For the beginning parts of it, I could have, get through. But, I was not a smart kid, and I didn't understand puzzles or, certain clues and hidden areas and that kind of type of stuff. And since Resident Evil was that type of game where you had to use your brain and it wasn't mindless action and shooting a lot like 4 or the Revelations games I played. But, I can only say this as a casual fan that this film is absolute shit. And I'm going to only talk about the good first. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City starts off pretty fine to me. I say it felt like Resident Evil. I mean, even it's got the original kind of Resident Evil text that was in the games. I was expecting like the narrator to come out. That announcer voice that goes, Resident Evil. I was waiting for that. Like, I was waiting for him to just say that when the title card just popped up. And then he would say, Welcome to Raccoon City. It would have been pretty cool, honestly, if I heard that guy. I know it would have sounded over the top, but come on. I want that. I want that to happen. Just that title card popped up and I hear that announcer voice say the name. I would have been happy to hear that in the theater if that ever happened, but it didn't. I did enjoy how the beginning felt like 2 in a way, where it had the truck driver and his damn burger. I also do love the look of Raccoon City, despite a thing that I will complain about later. I did like the aesthetic, the look, the feel. It did feel like Resident Evil 2, mainly Resident Evil 2 Remake, which the director said that's the feel he wanted for the movie, because Remake was a pretty decent looking look for the video game, and he wanted that same type of feel in the movie. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm down for that. And he has said that he wanted to mimic the fixed camera angles that were in the first Resident Evil game when he was filming stuff in the Spencer Mansion. And I kind of saw that in a few shots where it was stuck in one place in the staircase while a guy was getting munched on by zombies. I was like, yeah, that feels like that was a fixed camera angle perspective, like in the video game. That actually did look pretty cool. I will say the director did a good job with the shots in this film. He directed it pretty nice with getting good shots in the film, even making the aesthetic pleasing. Hell, whoever he got to score the movie, the score absolutely feels like a Resident Evil game. Like that creepy horror-esque like sounds of it. It just felt like it feels like, especially with Resident Evil 4, where you just know when an enemy or bad guy is coming at you. When you hear like the evil, like infected townsfolk in 4, and you just hear them going, "Rrr," and you hear the music going like something like that, and the movie captures that great with the horror aspect of seeing the infected people, and then you hear like the music just really scaring you and creeping up your spine and just making you tingle like, ugh. Like it feels good. But sadly, despite that, the movie's just terrible at executing it perfectly through its story. I heard that James Wan was attached to this project at first, especially some other writer was going to write the script for the movie. And I guess James Wan left it to do Mortal Kombat, which, you know, it felt like an ultimatum. Like he felt like thinking like, now, do I want to give Resident Evil another chance to be a good movie, or should I put my focus and intention on Mortal Kombat? And that's the weird thing. I didn't even like the Mortal Kombat 2021 movie. I mean, I like the stuff between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. I love that stuff. I did like a few things, like, you know, Kung Lao, not Raiden. Raiden was meh in that movie. He was no Christopher Lambert, honestly. I did like Kano, but that's because Kano stole the show in that film. I hated the Arcana. I didn't like that they got their abilities because of this marking, the dragon marking on them. I was like, really? Can't we just have them have these abilities just for the sake of they just have them? Instead of explaining it by saying like, yeah, you need this arcana, and in order to get it, you must kill a person to claim it. I was like, what? Sounds dumb. I didn't like the audience character, which was Cole Young, but I heard that the director and writers were forced to put Cole Young in the movie because the studio wanted a audience surrogate character. I feel bad for those people because I guess they did want to make him. Maybe they did want a Johnny Cage in the movie. And then the studio was like, no, here's an original character and you're going to use him. And you're like, damn it. And, but then again, this felt like a Mortal Kombat movie. To me, at least, that felt like a Mortal Kombat movie. It had the gore, it had the blood. It did feel like Mortal Kombat with the action, the fighting. It actually did feel like I was watching someone play Mortal Kombat at times. And it was pretty respectful for the source material despite its flaws. But you could see they were trying to make a good movie. Am I saying this director didn't try to make a good movie when he made Resident Evil? I'm not saying he did bad. I say he sucks as a fucking writer. That's for sure. He sucks as a writer. He can't write a good story. He didn't write a good script. Hell, I don't even think he understood who the characters were. Yes, Leon S. Kennedy. He's a rookie. I know he's a rookie. He was a rookie. It was his first day in the job at Raccoon City, yet they had to make it worse for him. Where he was transferred to Raccoon City because he shot someone in the ass. Huh? They even say it very comedically and mess around with fucking uh Leon in the movie. Like, ooh, Leon S. Kennedy, you're so stupid. You're a dumbass rookie. They even had to exposition dialogue the shit out of him, which I found annoying. Aren't you the rookie that shot his partner in the ass and you got transferred to this whole shithole town? Like, it felt like an exposition heavy dialogue dump that felt terrible and felt forced, like this dude was reading it off the script, especially with what, Dr. Bergen, whatever his name was, like when he fucking was like talking about, hey, you're Chris and Claire Redfield. And then there's like Chris saying like she sleepwalks after her mother died or blah 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 or something. I'm like, Jesus Christ. You are just expositioning the hell out of this. Like, they're cramming so much stuff in the intro and exposition the hell out of dialogue for these characters that it just hurts hearing. It just hurts hearing. Not only that, you know what hurts also? Hearing Albert Wesker acting like he is a dude that would try to pick up a girl at a bar, but he's gonna fail. He's gonna tell his jock bros at the fraternity that he totally banged the chick, and then he was like, yeah, I'm pretty sick. And that's what he feels like. He just feels like a dude bro. And it just wasn't feeling like Wesker. And what? And spoilers for anyone who's never played the games, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, but God, Wesker's betrayal in this movie felt off. It just felt wrong. It didn't feel like he was a man that wanted power, that wanted control, that wanted to be numero uno on the top. Like, it didn't feel like a guy who wanted absolute ultimate power. It felt like a dude that's so annoyed that he's like, I just want to get the fuck out of this town and I want some money. Like, that's it. That's all the reason why he betrays his friends, he betrays stars, is because he's like, yeah, I want out of this town. I need money. And that's it. He didn't want power. He didn't want anything else except for just, yeah, I just wanted to get out of this town. That's my reasoning for betraying everyone. I was like, Jesus Christ. And he fakes his own death, blah, blah, blah. And that's... It's even worse when you see him wear the sunglasses at the end of the movie, provided by Ada Wong. And he's like acting all scared and nervous, like he's a sick, drenched puppy. And I'm like, oh my God, you really made him so terrible. You made Wesker a bitch in this movie. My God, how do you attempt that? How? How do you attempt a guy that looks so badass, looks so cool, looks like someone you would fear, someone with an ego so high that he wanted absolute ultimate power, make him look like he just wants to go home and drink hot cocoa. How? Say what you want about Albert Wesker in Resident Evil Extinction and Afterlife and Final Chapter, especially how much he went down like a bitch in Final Chapter. it, at least in Afterlife, you can tell this is a dude that felt like Albert Wesker from how he dresses, from the sunglasses to his goal for power and such, and seeing such him just acting so egotistical and such an asshole. It felt like Wesker. It felt like him being an evil villain that you want to kill, that you want to hate, not just be uncomfortable and say like, yeah, I gotta go home. I'm busy doing stuff. I have a boyfriend, so please leave me, creepy dude. Like that, I don't want to feel that. I want to feel a guy that I can hate and want him dead, even though he's gonna somehow eventually avoid death and say, "I live, bitches," and I'm gonna go and kill the good guy. Like it doesn't. Like, come on. It doesn't feel like Wesker. I mean, yeah, it did feel like Wesker in Final Chapter because he was basically the second in command of Dr. Isaacs, but it just felt off. God, it just felt terrible seeing Wesker portrayed this way. Did this director even like the games? What was his intention? What was he trying to do by changing what these characters are? Jill Valentine doesn't feel like Jill Valentine. She just feels like this like show-offy cop, basically. And I'm like, that's not Jill. Doesn't feel like Jill at all. This doesn't feel like a Jill that would help people who's a tough as nails cop. Like, no, this doesn't feel like Jill. This feels like a fucking show off girl that just like, I'm gonna show how cool I am and such. Even freaking Chris Redfield, the first scene I see him in this movie, the first scene, he's so whiny. And he's so whiny in like the entire movie because he's like, Claire, you can't do this. My God, Claire, I don't like you, Claire. As a matter of fact, here's the thing: Claire and Chris, yeah, they hate each other, which is stupid. It's stupid. They have no ill will towards each other in the games, yet they have this little sibling argument rivalry happening where they're like, fuck you and fuck you too to each other. And it just feels out of place, like wondering, huh? But they care for each other. They don't hate each other. What is this coming from? Even Claire, as much as I said this, I do like the actor who played Claire. I think she has the makings of being a good Claire Redfield, like in the games. She has the spunk. She has the coolness of her. But the problem is she's not that kind and compassionate character that she was in the games. She just felt like, the troubled teen, basically. That's what it felt like. Like there's so much angst and anger and pumped up emotions that hating everything, where it just feels like, no, that's not Claire. I mean, at times it feels like Claire, the way she moves, the way she looks, the way she holds that gun of hers and everything feels like something I would see in the game. But instead, it just how she comes off with the script and the tone that the director is telling her how to act in this movie, I feel like it didn't help. Because I feel like maybe this actor was trying to be Claire, but this director was like, no. You gotta act it like this. Even though it's not like the games, I'm telling you to act like Claire is more of a angsty teen, probably. But Claire and Leon had this like dynamic or chemistry with each other when working together in Resident Evil 2. I mean, yeah, they didn't talk a lot. They weren't in the same room as each other, but they were trying to find a way to escape and also trying to stop Umbrella in the process and also trying to run away from Mr. X. There's no Mr. X in this movie. It's a liquor, you know, that tongue thing, that little demonic creature goes and everything. That's your enemy. And also the creature that the doctor turns himself into in the movie as well. Like, that's it. There's no Mr. X, which is really disappointing that there's no Mr. X in this movie. Hell, maybe they would have had a Mr. X if the movie was, I don't know, just about Resident Evil 2 and not just cram two games together, the movie, to make things so like overstuffed and a terrible way to tell the story of these two games. It really is. It's a horrible way to tell the stories of the games. Like, the Spencer Mansion was its own story, was its own tale of its own that you could have made as your one separate movie. And Resident Evil 2 would have been your own separate movie. But it wasn't. It's just this crammed mess that feels so horribly written that you don't know or recognize if it's the game or not. Also, there's no Barry. Yep, no Barry. Barry is not in this movie. There is no Barry. There is none of him. He doesn't say a Jill that you almost were a Jill sandwich. No, Jill says that. Yeah, she takes Albert Wesker's sandwich and says, "Oh my, this is Jill's sandwich." And I just bashed my head on my fucking wall just thinking, oh my goodness, I don't like this. This is stupid. No, Barry, how could you have a Resident Evil movie if you don't have Barry? Was it because that it would have over prolonged the script to have him there? If so, maybe you could have reconsidered and think, hey, I should just make a Resident Evil movie that's about the first game. But clearly this dude's like, but I want to talk about the second game as well. Well, here's a thought. And it's a thought, you know, it's a thought. It's here. If you really wanted to make a Resident Evil 2 movie, why not just make a Resident Evil 2 movie if that's what you wanted to do? Now, I know it's like, well, why would we start off with Resident Evil 2 instead of starting it off with Resident Evil 1 with the Spencer Mansion? I could tell you this. Resident Evil 2 could have been the first movie that you wanted to make if that's what was so important to you and think it would have been pretty rad to make. And then you could have probably had Resident Evil 1 be the prequel. Just a suggestion. Or maybe, just maybe, because you have a low as hell budget, because clearly you didn't have the budget to make Raccoon City an actual city. You made it into a fucking ghost town. Why? Like, why did you make it into a town? It's called Raccoon City, not Raccoon Town. That doesn't make any sense. It's barely a city then. It's barely a city then. It's not a city. It's a freaking town. It's not even a city. Doesn't have any fucking like buildings and skyscrapers or something like that. No, you talked about it like Raccoon City. So why is it named Raccoon City if it's just a small town? It does not make sense to call it a city. Give Resident Evil Apocalypse a little bit of credit. It had a Jill Valentine that acted like Jill Valentine, and it had a Raccoon City that was actually a city. So dumb. I didn't even get to Leon. I mean, Leon S. Kennedy, the rookie. What about him that I probably hate more than a terrible version of Albert Wesker? Well, Leon is an idiot. Yeah, Leon's an absolute dumbass in this movie. You think like, oh, but Wolf, he's a rookie. Of course he's gonna make mistakes. Of course he's gonna act a bit stupid here. Then, yes, okay, sure. Leon could act a bit naive, and he's not the big badass that he was in the later games, of course. But here's the thing: he is a rookie. But being a rookie doesn't mean you're an idiot. It doesn't. Like, it doesn't. Like, just because he's a rookie doesn't mean he's an idiot. He will learn as he goes. Like, he will learn, he will try to adapt, try to be smarter, and think better. And that's what he would do. Leon was not a dumbass in the games. Sure, he was a rookie, but at least he was a bit smart behind his ears and knew what he was doing, even though this was terrifying to him because his first day on the job is when a zombie apocalypse happens. But hey, he wasn't that much of a dumbass. He was actually a pretty smart character, and he started to grow as a character throughout the game on that single night that he's trying to escape Raccoon City, which was pretty cool. But in this movie, he's acting like Kurt Russell in Big Trouble in Little China. You know, when he's like, oh, what's this? What the hell is going on? What is going on, Wang? Who are those guys? Like, that's what he feels like he's acting like. He's acting like he's a fish out of water, doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's questioning everything that's going on around him, asking dumb questions like, what's going on? Who's in charge now? Put your gun down, even though it's clearly a fucking fire hydrant, and I don't know why Leon said it was a gun, even though he clearly sees through his perspective that it's a damn fire extinguisher. What? And what was the other dumb thing he did? Oh yeah, he sees a guy who is trapped in a jail cell with a zombie, and Leon goes very close to the bars that he gets his freaking gun taken away by the guy who's in prison. How? How are you this dumb? God! Oh my god. Hey, he couldn't be this dumb. Not only that, hey, look at that. A zombie that came back to life because even though Claire shot him with a shotgun, he's still alive. And then what does Leon do? Just shoots all his bullets until the zombie is dead. Congrats, man. Now you gotta find more ammo. Leon doesn't feel like he contributed to anything. Like, nothing. I can only think of, what, like 2? Even then, he just only shot one zombie, fired a rocket launcher at one of them, Yeah, that's it. All he did was act like an idiot the rest of the time of the movie. He didn't contribute to anything. Leon was a fucking wasted character in this. He was a wasted character in this movie. All he did was act dumb, ask stupid questions, and didn't do nothing except for two things that, hell, anyone could have done besides him. It feels stupid. And I just hate it. This just annoyed the hell out of me. And it still manages to annoy the hell out of me while talking about it. At least Chris did something. At least Claire did something. At least a lot of people did something. But no, this... Now, as much as everyone hates the Resident Evil saga that Paul W.S. Anderson made because of his fan fiction character, Alice, you know, he married his own OC. He loves his wife so much that he would have her star in the movie and be an original character. I don't know. That feels like an insult that Paul W.S. Anderson is saying, sorry, honey, I don't see any character from the Resident Evil games you could play that would fit you perfectly. That kind of sounds like an insult. But here's the thing. There is some good to those movies. To me, those movies did feel like Resident Evil. Why do I think this? Well, it's because I see a Claire Redfield that is compassionate and cares about people. I do see a Jill Valentine that's a badass, but not a show-off, but is a pretty cool person that wants to do the right thing. I do see a cool Chris Redfield that I would definitely believe he would punch a fucking boulder. Even though Wentworth Miller wasn't that great of a Chris Redfield, he's at least better than Robbie Amell. I'm sorry, but he is. This Albert Wesker actually feels like Albert Wesker. He feels like a villain. I don't know. The Leon Kennedy, if I had to choose which Leon Kennedy I would have gone with, I mean, the guy was fine, but I didn't think he was right for the part as Leon, honestly. Did you know that the original voice actor for Leon tried to audition to play the live action version of Leon S. Kennedy for Resident Evil Retribution? But Paul W.S. Anderson kind of laughed and said, yeah, haha, no. I'm not kidding. That's true. But the characters, in my opinion, and Kaiju's opinion, because I'm basing this what she said as well, is that they did feel like the characters. Sure, they were sidelined, and the movies were more about Alice, sadly. But hey, they were characters that we cared about, and we looked at them and were recognized like, yeah, that does feel like the characters from the games. And then you see Welcome to Raccoon City, and they don't feel like jack shit like the games. They just feel like fucking just carbon copies of them that don't know or understand what the original character was like. It's honestly sad. And it feels disappointing. Here's the thing. Maybe it's because they didn't want to do another isolated, slow, small movie like how the first Resident Evil started. But here's the thing. You wanted to make a big Resident Evil movie. They started small. The first movie started small, and then they wanted to grow bigger and actually do the city of Raccoon City in the second Resident Evil movie, which was Apocalypse. And you know what? They honestly did better with that duology of film. I mean, you can take it face value saying like it wasn't good. Yes, sure. I can see why a lot of people don't like the Paul W.S. Anderson movies. I enjoy them. The first movie is a legitimate good movie, and the rest of the sequels are just the guilty pleasures that you enjoy, you know? I know everyone was complaining, wanting a more faithful adaptation to Resident Evil. So do I. I think a Resident Evil movie that is good and is faithful to the games can exist. But sadly, it's not this movie. It's just bad. It looks good. I love the music. I love the 90s songs that come out of nowhere, basically. And yes, even what's going on is in the movie. So you can rest your head knowing that it wasn't just a trailer song. But sadly, with its characters, it doesn't feel like a Resident Evil movie. It just doesn't. The characters don't feel like it. And well, the story doesn't feel well thought out as well. I feel like James Wan and whoever that other writer was could have done better with the script. This director should have stayed directing the film. Nothing else. He shouldn't have wrote the script. This man should have stayed as only director, because as a director, he can make a good-looking Resident Evil movie. But as a writer, he just made a shitty, paper-thin story with little to no character development whatsoever that understood the characters, despite he played the games. I'm sorry, I'm giving this movie a 2 out of 10. Hopefully the Netflix TV show of Resident Evil will do a better job. And if it does, I really hope it does. Because if not, well, at least I have the original 6 movies. Or was it 7? No, it was 6. It was 6 movies, yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a lovely Christmas and a happy New Year. I'll see you, Wolfpack, in the next one. Ciao.
Ow, ow, ow.